Alright, rad potential YouTube followers. It has been a few minutes since I've uploaded a video. And let me tell you why. Went on vacation with my family. It was super fun. And it has been like 9,000 degrees here in Tennessee. And my shop does not have air conditioning. So, how am I going to fix that? Well, I got a fan. I got another fan up here. I got this fancy attic vent. I'm going to put the attic vent up there so it kind of keeps some hot air out. But, regardless, you did not come here to listen to what I have to do with my shop. You came because you saw that we have a first-gen RX7 with Turbo 2 front brakes on it. For the cheap. So, how might you accomplish this? Let me turn this fan off just so it's not as annoyingly loud in here. How might you accomplish this? 1. FC subframe swap. The whole deal. Put the whole subframe in there. Boom. Run FC lower control arms. Bolt in your favorite coilover system and you're off to the races. You use the stock sway bar mounts. Cut the end links. And you're good and done. There's a white turbo first gen. My buddy Charles built. It's got that done to it. It's a good handling car. The only thing that sucks, if you do the subframe swap, you have to run an FC engine because the FC engine mounts in the center of the motor, which I do not have any laying around right now to show you, but the engine mounts are on the center iron. So, you can't put that in a first gen. Or, well, you can't put a first gen engine in an FC subframe. So, use a stock subframe. You could go and buy all of the RE Speed old school vintage swap parts that have the custom control arms and their subframe and all that jazz, but good luck finding it because I've never been able to find it. And my buddy Charles does have a setup like that on his Turbo First Gen Death Trap, so if you scroll back through my videos, there's a red and black car. Watch that video. I'll show you, or it shows all that stuff. But how can you do it yourself on a budget, junkyard parts, for the low price of, we'll say, $4 a corner if you have a welder and some mild construction ability? So, here's what we did. I took a stock first-gen lower control arm, which they are over here. You take your stock first-gen lower control arm, hammer the ball joint out of it. Stock first-gen lower control arm, hammer the ball joint out. Go on Rock Auto and order this part. I will show you the part number. Right here. That right there, if you can read it. Steering and suspension systems. This is, here, just wait, I got another one. Yeah, that one's got the number on it better. Alright, right there. That's your part number. This right here is a Mazda 626 factory ball joint. Why, you might ask, you need a Mazda 626 ball joint, which I can't get this open with one hand, but anyways, we'll just decimate it. Okay, massive shake cam, box is destroyed. There we go. Brand new Mazda 626 ball joint. Reason I say $4 a side, that costs $4. So you buy this, reason being, see how it has a necked taper. I guess it's got a neck in it, the little neck down area for a bolt to slide through. So you need that in order to mount an FC spindle. Will fit on that ball joint. Now, that ball joint will fit in your lower control arm. However, sometimes, depending on how the old ball joint comes out, you might have to, like what I did, I tack welded it in. Now, given on my future set and what I'm going to do with these here after I modify them just a little bit, and I'll explain why. These ball joints are held in with a snap ring. Notice how the snap ring sits higher above the knurled area on the ball joint to keep it from sliding out. What I am going to do, which is one of the reasons why I pulled the control arms back off, is weld a narrow band of steel, basically sleeve this, so that way the snap ring retains the ball joint in the lower control arm instead of, as I did this the first time, I tack welded the ball joint in. Same on this one. So, that will get you an FC spindle mount. Now, to sort out the rest of it, So you can use, and this is how I set mine up, although while I'm taking it back apart, it wasn't exactly perfect. So my camera's not really adjusting to the light. This is a Tokiko gas shock for an FC. This is not a coilover. This is simply a strut with a spring. I did have to cut the spring. The FC suspension is substantially longer, and you will have monster truck wheelie ride height in the front. So you can use this. You will have to waller the holes out at the top to fit the FC top hat. Not a big deal. Get you one of these junkyard parts. Easy peasy. Cut the spring. You'll get it low all day long. Okay. Next, you need your assorted FC spindle and brake setup. You do not have to use Turbo 2 brakes. You can use 4-lug brakes if you want. You can use a 4-lug hub with Turbo 2 brakes. It doesn't matter. Get an FC Turbo 2 spindle or FC spindle, brake, hub, rotor, that assembly, all that match. And you will need to mount them backwards. Say again, backwards. The FC is front steer with rack and pinion. Now what does that mean? The rack sits in front of the axle. So if you imagine your hub as the axle, the rack and pinion rack thing that moves back and forth when you steer your wheel sits in front of it. So on an FC knuckle, spindle, knuckle, whatever you want to call it, this piece right here, the steering knuckle right here that sticks off would stick forward and it would turn. Okay, notice on an FB, where is the steering box, not a steering rack, it is in the back. So on an FB you have a steering box with a drag link that has an idler arm mounted right here, these two bolts, to the side of the frame, and that's what holds that drag link level, and as the drag link moves side to side, it moves the tie rods, which then turns the wheel. So you put the passenger side FC spindle on the driver's side of the car and the driver's side on the passenger side, backwards. How does that help you? Well, it moves the knuckle to the back. You can use your stock steering on your first gen. Now, while you're doing that, you will need, because this knuckle and everything kind of moves out, you will need to extend, which I am doing a bad job of showing you under the car. Let me grab the light. You will need to extend the tie rod approximately 1 inch. So what I did is took the stock tie rod, and I'm calling the tie rod this piece. The tie rod ends are your inboard and outboard with the ball joints in them. Anyways, you will need to extend the tie rod, aka the threaded piece in the middle, 1 inch. So, best way to do it, take the tie rod, break it loose from everything so it spins and stuff, and you're not trying to get this out with the vice grips. Break it loose, get it out, cut it in the middle, find a piece of steel that the tie rod slides into, just barely, and slide your tie rod in enough, about a 1/2 inch or more on either side, so you can extend it. Weld it on there, right around the end, right around the end. I highly suggest, which is what we did, drill a hole through this as well, and angel eye weld the spots there. Now, something you can do if you like to raise stuff, like what we did. You see here, I welded a giant nut right in the center. What does that enable you to do? Well, your tie rod is just a threaded sleeve. If it's stuck, you have to have a vice grips. Quick adjustments, you can just put an adjustable wrench on here now, adjust your alignment, done. Never gets stuck. So, you can use the stock first gen tie rod ends. They will fit right in your FC knuckle, and you're done. Now, why might you ask, am I taking mine apart? This setup will work fantastic if you have a coilover setup on your car, because you can tip the camber in. This car at ride height with it lower, like cut springs, the whole deal, had a tiny bit of positive camber, which is not very good, because when you're turning, it's gonna roll over, your camber's gonna go away. So what I am doing, because I really want to get the science right on it, to run a stock FC front strut, because it's cheaper that way. Also, this is not a race car, this is just a street car, so front struts will be perfectly fine. I am going to take the lower control arm and I'm going to cut them, and I'm going to extend them 1 inch. Now, I'm sure if you went and bought the Techno Toy Tuning adjustable lower control arms that you can adjust the length and with a non-adjustable top hat on your front strut, you could adjust the camber out and it would increase your track width a little bit. You'd be good to go. The other thing that you will have to do is make the sway bar, you will have to bend which is kind of a pain in the butt, or just grind some off your sway bar end link. Right here, you will see the sway bar gets really close to your strut. If you're running a coilover that has a decent amount of clearance right here, you might be okay, but the sway bar gets really close, so you'll need to bring this out a little bit regardless, or tip it in. I don't know, you'll have to figure it out. Maybe if you have an aftermarket sway bar, it'll fit, but I'm using stock stuff. So all of that stuff literally will bolt on. You can just extend your tie rod ends. So that's kind of the gist. Now, to come back over here, what am I going to do? On the rally car. So if you don't know, I haven't really made a video of it, but you can see my door here. My very first video on YouTube was my second rally car. I race rally. So what do you do on a rally car? Need some more camber, because when you're in a corner and you're sliding sideways at 50 mile an hour and your wheels are turned, the camber goes away. So if you have, say, 1 degree of negative camber, right, factory car, and you turn, you actually have positive camber, which will mean less traction, which will mean that your front end will not be as gripped up. Therefore, your front end will wash and you'll slide off the road. So what I did on the rally car, or how it was done before me, and that one's done like that, same deal. You take your lower control arm, sorry for the shake cam, take your lower control arm right about in here, right where it's fairly narrow, and you have nothing that bolts to it. You chop it, you bend a piece of steel that fits over this. This is fairly thin stuff. You see, it's really not that thick. Bend a piece of steel that fits over this nice and flush. Just imagine you laid it over there, hammered it around the contour. That's about that wide. You extend this out an inch, weld it all up. Take the bottom of it, this right here is not factory, add a box it in right here. You can't do it out here because you got to get to your bolts and stuff, which you could and drill holes, but I wouldn't recommend it. And box it in just like that. Now it's strong. So did that on the rally car, got about 4.5 degrees of negative camber. It is sick, it's super gripped up, it handles amazing, and I can show you a video of that here in the future, so come back and check. But anyways, the rundown. All you need to buy for this swap, besides the FC parts, but buy new, is the Mazda 626 ball joint from Rock Auto. It's $3.99. If you can afford that, you got a welder, and you can go to your local pick and pull and score an FC front end for decently cheap. I'd recommend obviously putting new pads and maybe new rotors and whatever, and while you're in there do new tie, kind of refresh the front end of your car. These cars are pretty washed out. Anyways, for that, you can set your first gen up with Turbo 2 suspension, or at least Turbo 2 brakes. You want your big 5-lug stuff or whatever. The other trick for the rear, and I can show you really quick, even though this video is getting kind of long. So this is the whole GSL-SE setup right here, not for sale. On a GSL SE axle, it is 4x114.3 bolt pattern. As you can see right here, this axle flange is mighty large. So, stand this up. If you take a 4x114 axle pattern, you can drill this flange for 5x114.3. You need to buy a 5x114.3 wheel spacer, hammer all of these studs out but one, bolt it to the one stud that's left, center it on this hub centric, and then re-drill the other 5 holes, and you can hammer 4 new studs in, 5 new studs in, and you can have 5-lug rear. Notice FC wheels on the back of this. Bolts right on. Then all you got to do is drill, take a GSL-SE rotor, drill it for 5-lug. So the same thing, drill the holes, drill 5 holes in it that slide on right. Make sure you're centered, and boom, you got 5-lug in the rear. Now, if you're running big power, the GSL-SE axle is going to blow up at 280 horsepower, whatever, if you're really abusing it. So don't worry about spinning the axle and breaking the axle apart, because you're going to blow the center chunk out of it before you really tear up what you had just drilled. So don't super worry about it. You cannot, I repeat, you cannot drill a 4x114 axle, or 4x110 axle, sorry, I'll edit that out. You cannot drill a 4x110 axle for 5x114.3. The axle flange simply is not big enough. So I have 2 of them sitting here. This flange right here, the surface area of the flange is not big enough to support 114.3 bolt patterns. I've tried, it will not work. It was like way out towards the edge. So with that, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. I just crammed a ton of info into this little video. Feel free to comment and ask questions. I will answer them. So, yeah. Thanks for watching. Keep it rad.